Yeah, I was saying there's not a great deal of videos that talk about routing. I'm just going to give a general overview, just to sort of set the playing field when it comes to routing on master fader, and just talk about a few sort of common areas that people ask questions about. So generally, when you get into your routing, you can access it by clicking on here. You are presented with this page here. Now, as I said, there's not a lot of people that talk about routing, and when you watch some of the videos that have been created by some of the master fader techs or whatever, they do talk about it, but they kind of brush over things, so nobody actually stops to explain how things work. So I'm going to do that for you, and we're just going to demystify a few things. So first of all, the thing you need to understand here is this: the items you have on the left hand side here, these items here on the left, this menu here, this is where the sound is coming from, and this is when you're talking about inputs, by the way. It'll be slightly different when we talk about outputs, but this is where the signal is coming from, and this is where the signal, and the top side is where the signal is going to. One second, let's fix my headphones here. Okay, so from and to, from and to. So if you understand that basic principle, it kind of gives you an idea of how things are working. So for example, I'm on DL32S, so obviously I'll have 32 channels running down the side here, and the places where you plug stuff into the physical mixer, they actually call them the mic pre, or the mic preamps, microphone preamps, where you plug your instruments and mics in on the physical device. So as you can see here, we're in channel 1, and we're saying that send that physical mic pre-input on the mixer to channel 1. And what's channel 1? This is channel 1. That's channel 1. I could do something similar, go back into routing, and say send mic pre to channel 2. Now I'm not going to do that now because I've not set up channel 2, and I don't want you to lose my voice temporarily, but I'll leave it in channel 1 and also send it to channel 2, and you'll have a situation where so I'm not going to take it out of 1, but I'll send it to 2, and you see how it took it out of mic pre 2 and it sent it there. So what we have is a situation where my mic is going into channel 1, mic pre 1, and we're sending that to channel 1 and channel 2. When you come back here, you'll see that channel 2 also has the same mic signal coming in as channel 1. Obviously the gain is down. I could turn that up, and the various, I haven't set the channel up anyway, but the gain is down, and there's various things that I haven't set up. I have this routed in such a way that you're not actually listening to the main mix, you're listening to aux 7 and 8. That's what you're actually listening to here. So that's why when I turned that up, you didn't actually hear a difference. But we're not talking about what I've got set up in my route. We're just simply talking about understanding the general basics. So if you just simply understand that this is where it's coming from and this is where it's going to, it might demystify routing for some people, because some people look at this and they think it doesn't make any sense, and without anyone explaining it to you, it doesn't make any sense. So just remember, from on the left hand side and where it's going to. I've said this in a previous video where if you wanted to, say for example, you had a bass player who wanted to have control over his EQ or listen to something completely different in his monitor mix, for example. This is a good example you can use this for, and your bass player was on channel 1, for example. What you could do is, if you're only using 12 channels for your entire mix, you can also send that bass signal to channel 13, and then you could come back here on channel 13. Where are we at? There we go, channel 13. And what you could do on channel 13 is you could create an entirely different mix for the bass player, because they're being a diva. I'm a bass player, by the way. They're being a bit of a diva, and they want they want this and they want that. So you can set up a completely separate mix, different EQ, etc., for the bass player. Obviously this isn't a bass mix, but yeah, you can set up a separate EQ mix here. Just gonna do something that looks a bit of mid scoop there. Okay, and they're saying, oh yeah, I'm happy with that. And then what you could then do is, if the bass player was on aux 3, for example, you just simply turn up aux 3 there, and make sure you don't turn up aux 1, channel 1, sorry. Make sure you turn up the separate bass mix. Oh look, I've actually got a bass channel assigned there. But anyways, turn up the separate bass mix in their in-ear monitor, or in their monitor there, and don't turn up 1, and then 1 can be left to be for the front of house mix, because that's the way you want it, out of front of house. That's what is appropriate, and they can have their own separate mix. Obviously you've got 32 channels here, so if you're not using all 32, all you need is whatever spare channels you have, and you can create as many separate mixes going back to your monitors, your musicians' monitors or your singers' monitors. You'll probably most likely find this using this for singers as opposed to musicians, because musicians kind of get on with it unless they're guitarists. But yeah, that's one thing you can utilize routing for. I've said this in a previous video, and that's a pretty cool trick. If you've got somebody who's this person's a pain in the backside, they constantly want X, Y, and Z, then you can do that. So that's one example. So if we look further down here, you'll see that it also has USB. So if you're utilizing any USB channels, you've got your DAW opened up and you're sending certain tracks back from the DAW into the mixer, and you want to be able to mix the sounds coming from that on whatever channel you choose to send it back. Say you've got something on USB 4, you've got some sort of a synth sound coming in, and you want to be able to mix that on channel, let's go with channel 14 this time, because we've already used 13. We said we have 12 items, just to keep some consistency. So you can send that USB 4 back from your DAW or whatever, digital audio workstation, to 14, and then we know we're going to send 14 to mix 14, and bring that up for the front of house, and then we can do a separate mix, EQ, add effects, whatever it is you want to add. I've got a video that talks about effects, because that's another question we get. I can't get the effects to work, so there's a 3-step quick tutorial tip in the on this channel. Just go ahead and have a look at that video. But you can turn that up here, and you've got that coming through. So that's a way of utilizing your routing. And I'm going to show you something pretty cool, where if you don't want to do this, that's the cool thing about Master Fade, there's so many options. You've got input B here. Now what most people do is they'll set up input B in such a way that B has all the USB tracks coming back. Okay, so this is where the noise or the signal or the sound or whatever it is coming from. Remember, this is where it's going to, so that you can manipulate the mix. So what they'll do is, obviously I'm not going to do that on USB 1, but what they'll do is they'll set up, this like so. Okay. Actually, no, to keep it consistent, what did we say earlier on? We said that we're using the first 12 channels, aren't we? We're using the first 12 channels. We've sent 13 to the bass player because they're being a bit of a diva, and we're coming back from, so we've got channels 14 onwards free. Okay, and you want to send stuff from your USB back, so they'll hook up, I mean, you can do all the channels. This is input B anyway, but you can hook it up in such a way that you've got the first 12 channels for your mix, and then you've got these extra channels. How many have we selected? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got these. I could have just looked at here. So we've got these 9 channels coming back for our free mixer channels here. So we don't have anything there. We've got our our main mix happening there. This next group come on to the stage. They've got some stuff coming from a digital audio workstation into the main mix, in addition to using 12 of these channels as well. So you send that back. Now you've got a situation where you've got input B running USB and input A running the actual physical stuff that's plugged into the desk. So you just come over here from channel 14, I believe it is, and then just change that. And you can see that already tells you that channel 14, this physical channel here, is now going to be, oh gosh, what have I done? Hang on. No, that's fine. It shouldn't affect the stream. That's fine. So hang on, let's go back to routing. Okay, so it's also sending it. That's fine. So yeah, we've got channel. There we go. So we've got channels. Because I'm on channel 1, I just didn't want to affect the thing. But anyway, we've got a situation where channel 14. Hang on. There we go. So we have a situation where there's nothing on channel 14, that's fine. But we have a situation where, there we go. Channel 15 is now USB 2, and we've got something within the door sending a signal out, and it's coming back on channel 15. So we're routing it to channel 15, and we can manipulate that mix here on channel 15 for front of house. And then likewise the same thing. Channel 16 is bringing back something on USB 3, etc. Channel 17 has got USB 4, So we've got an entire mix that has been set up just using the routing, and all we would need to do here is switch these from mic pre 15, so channel 15 mic pre 15 as it was originally set here on input A. Yeah, so you've got channel 15 going to mic pre 15 going to channel 15, and then for input B we want to use that for our USB channels. So if you switch them all across to USB here, now these channels are now playing signals that are coming in from the USB channels that you have. Boom, boom, and then that's back to normal because we're not using channel 24. And just to show you what I've done with input B, from USB 2 all the way to USB 10, all the way up until channel 23, I believe. Yeah, up until channel 23. So basically from channels 15 to 23, the signal that's coming into the desk is coming from a USB source. And from channels 1 to 12, we said is coming in from physical items that are plugged into the actual mixing desk. And then we sent channel 13 as a secondary mix to our bass player who's being a diva today. We're not using channel 14. And this is the mix that we're dealing with on the day for front of house. Okay? And you can do that using your routing because you understand that the left hand side here gives you the source of the signal, the sound, the noise, whatever word you want to use that you feel comfortable with, the source of what's coming in to our mix, and the top side is where it's going to. Okay, and you can simplify this mix a lot more. Obviously I've just done this for illustration purposes, so we get a better understanding, and I can talk you through some of the general basics. But that's pretty much what you're looking at. So from to, and I'm just giving you a few examples so you have, you know, some sort of a visual to understand what would that actually look like, because this is what you don't actually get in these videos. Then you've got the USB channel. Now I'm doing something a bit interesting here, and I'll show you this. Now obviously I'm creating a video, or you can actually use this for live streaming, but when they make digital mixers, they do a thing where they create, or they send channel 1 in USB 1 and 2 as an out from the digital mixer. So when you plug a USB cable into a digital mixer, it only tends to send out channel 1 and 2, because the general default routing is that mic pre 1 is going into USB 1 and mic pre 2 is going into USB 2. So most people will open up their digital mixer and they're like, yeah, I want to send 32 channels out and mix 32 channels out, but then they find that they can only hear channel 1 and 2 and nothing else, because USB channel 1 and 2 is an unwritten rule, but it's pre-designated as the channels that are used for left and right to send the signal out of your mixer, out of the USB port, to wherever you're plugging it into. In this case, obviously, we have it plugged into a laptop. So how do you get more of these channels, the remaining 32 channels or 30 channels, out of the mixer into your USB so you can mix all 32 channels or record them? So what you do is, because channel USB 1 is left and USB 2 is right, what I do, remember the left is where it's coming from and the top is where it's going to, is I've assigned aux 7 and 8, okay? That's where I'm getting my signal from, yeah? And I'm sending that out of channels USB 1 and 2 out through the USB port. Then what I've done here is I've linked aux 7 and 8 together, okay? And that's now one output channel, okay? Which means anything I turn up here or anything I mix here in aux 7 and 8, yeah, all 32 channels, including all the FX, I can get a separate independent mix from the aux 7 and 8, using aux 7 and 8 as a separate independent mix. I can get that as an independent mix and send that across out through USB 1 and 2, which is my left and right effectively, to wherever I want it to go. And I can use that for live streaming, and I can control the sort of mix separately. Obviously, what you want to do here is make sure, if you're using Master Fader, of course, it gives you the option here to send pre-DSP. So, you know, if I don't want it to carry any of the effects, you know, I just want it to go straight out of the preamp without any sort of manipulation, then I can send it as pre-DSP. If I want it to have the DSP, I send it as post-fader, and it will have, pre-fader, and it'll have everything up until the fader, so all the EQ, everything will be sent. So let me just hit that there, and all of a sudden you can hear there's a massive change. You can hear all the EQ and everything that has been pre-applied on this channel here, and that's why you hear a massive difference. So that is pre-fade. You can send it post-fader, but post-fader would mean that whatever you do on the main left and right, I'll show you that here, whatever changes you make here, which is meant to be your front of house, will affect the changes that you make here. And we don't want that. We want a separate mix. So I would not put it on post fade because I want a separate mix. And then obviously I've unticked to use left and right mute, so I can mute these channels independently. So I'll mute channels 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then if you come around here, you'll see that they're not muted here. So I don't use left and right mute, and also I don't use left and right panning either. So if I had the first 8 channels as a drum kit, for example, and I didn't like the panning that I was using in the room, it worked for the room, but I wanted to have a more pronounced pan for the mix. I want the difference between where the snare and the hi-hat are to be more pronounced, so I can exaggerate that. If the snare was on channel 2, I can sort of exaggerate that even more and send the hi-hat really far away, and then it'll help clean up the mix. But that's all independent, because when I go back to my main left and right here, you don't see that. That just remains the same. So it's fully customizable. It gives you a lot of functionality, and you do that by just simply doing this. Now, you don't have to use aux 7 and 8, but this is sort of tips, because you know that this is where it's coming from, mic pre 1, 2. So if you just want to be able to send just mic pre 1 and mic pre 2 to USB out of your USB physical USB channel on the desk and send that out, then you can do that, and that's fine. But obviously that just limits you to having just 2 channels that come out. So that's one other way of doing things. Let's quickly look at outputs. So with outputs, the top is where things are going to, okay, where it's going to be actually physically coming out of, and the left is where it's coming from, okay. So you can choose to just send that one. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can choose to send just that one channel, mic pre 1, to the physical XLR output on the mixer, and all that output can do would be to send out just that one channel. It doesn't matter how many other things you try to turn up in the main left and right or anywhere else. You've pre-assigned that XLR channel to only output mic pre 1. So you have to be careful with what you're sending out, obviously, because you can only send one thing at a time. So if I was to hit that, which I probably shouldn't have done because now I can't hear. Hang on. There we go. So yeah, you have to, actually, hang on one second. Yeah, this allows me to hear what's going out to the video directly. But anyway, as I was saying, these are just individual channels. You can send just individual channels to an output, but you've only got 10 here, so be careful. If you can send those channels post DSP, so with all the sort of mixing, EQ, etc. effects, you can send that same channel 1 post DSP, and it'll send it to any of these physical XLR channels on the actual desk. Then here's where it gets interesting. You have so many other options after that. So you can choose to send just the effects signal out post DSP. Obviously it has to be post DSP. Why would you want to send an effects channel out pre DSP? What else do you have here? So you can send subgroups. So if you wanted, for example, I don't know why you'd want to do this, but if you had all the drums going to subgroup 1 and you wanted to send just the drums out via the physical XLR one, you can do. And I guess there's a reason why maybe the drummer has more than one monitor around them, and they're doing a recording or whatever the case is, and they want to be able to hear different things coming from their different monitors. You could say, okay, I'll just send the drums out of the monitor on your left, and then I'll send the vocals or everything else out of the monitor on the right. It's whatever they want, really. So you could do subgroups, just a whole entire subgroup out. You could have a situation where you've got a group of a choir, for example, and this choir is split up into three parts. You've got alto, tenor, and soprano, and you can have all the alto parts linked to subgroup 1, all the tenor parts linked to subgroup 2, and all the alto parts linked to subgroup 3, and they just want, for rehearsal purposes, for the people standing in front of XLR1 might be all the sopranos, the monitor in front of XLR2, in front of all the altos might be XLR2, and then this is the other one's tenor, whatever is left. You can have a situation where you just send that group directly, so that they can just hear just the soprano, right? So that's pretty cool. It's very customizable. You can send your auxes. Currently what I have, you can see that I'm sending the same aux 7 and 8 directly to XLR 1 and 2, and I have a stereo it's a stereo monitor from PreSonus, one of those body packs. It's the HP2 plugged in, and that's where my headphones are. And what I wanted to be able to do is hear in real time what's going to the recording, the video, in real time as I'm actually recording the video, so I can actually hear what's actually going there. And the reason for this is, if I had set it to USB 1 and 2, which is basically the return coming back from the laptop through the USB cable to my ears, I'd have a delay, because what's happening is I'm speaking into the mic is going into the physical mixer, it's being sent out of channel 1. Again, don't mind my volume levels, just ignore that, you can't see that, but it's going out of channel 1, so into the mic preamp, and then coming into the mixer, going out of channel 1 on my aux 7 and 8. It's picking up that volume level, then going out of the main 7 and 8 out to the USB. Where you at? Out to USB. So 7 and 8 is then sending that left and right signal through USB 1 and 2. So that mic signal is then going into the laptop. It's being processed, being sent to where you at? OBS. OBS is then picking that up, but I've got a monitor mix then coming back out from here, going back through USB 1 to the physical cable, into the mixer, and then it's returning that, and I could plug in, and it'll be returning that via the USB. Now if I did that, where are we? Outputs. I'd have a delayed signal coming back to me, which is a bit awkward when you're speaking and then you can hear yourself back a second or two. It just sounds like I'm speaking in slow motion, or it'll force me to speak in slow motion because I'm kind of trying to keep up with what I'm listening to on the monitor, which only makes me speak even slower. But if I want to hear it in real time, I'll just route it to 7 and 8 as I've done. And 7 and 8 is now going to XLR 1 and 2, where I have my physical preamp plugged in. Because somebody will say to me, why didn't you just plug your left and right into 7 and 8? And I get a delayed return because it has to go through that entire loop to come back to me. Whereas if I plug it into 1 and 2 and send that directly from 7 and 8 to XLR 1 and 2, as the mixer is sending the signal out to OBS, it's sending that same signal out to my headphones. So I get to hear it in real time rather than the return signal from OBS, the laptop, back to me, because that's where then it picks up the delay. There's latency, so I get to hear this as it's going out as well. So this is pretty cool. But just remember with your outputs, you choose where the output is coming from, okay, and then where you want it to go to. Now obviously I've got 10 physical XLR output channels on this mixer, and they will reflect up here. That's why I've got physical XLR 1 through to 10. Now obviously 9 and 10 are the main left and right mix, so that's why you've got double. And talkback is pretty self-explanatory. I'll show you something really quickly. Just come off there, come off there. So actually, this is not what I wanted to show you. This is what I wanted to show you. What this default comes with is, sorry, mic pre 32. So the last channel. When Mackie set this up and send it to you, they've automatically set the last channel to come back to you as talkback. You don't have to use the last channel, because the last channel are also high Z channels. So you'd want to plug a guitar or a bass or whatever into there. But they preset it up as the talkback channel. And this is what it just comes default as the software, with the software and the hardware. So because that's default there, when you come here and you select that you want your talkback to go to, say, aux 1 or subgroup 3 or whatever, yeah, notice there's nothing else here that you can assign anywhere else, just the talkback. But when you do that, it just means you just talk back to what's on X aux 3, but you have to have a mic physically plugged into channel 32, because that's how it's been set up here. Or just simply move the talkback to whichever channel that you want. So if you've got your mic plugged in on mic pre 5, that's where your talkback mic is. Just plug it there, put your talkback mic into 5, obviously set the gain up, etc. Come here to talkback, and then you can on the fly choose to talk back to any of these. So you can preset it up if you want to talk back to all the auxes in one go. Notice aux 9 and 10 are not there because you've got main there, so that's why. But you can talk back there, and the feature for that, we've discussed this in a previous video, but it's over here. So this allows you to decide how much volume you're sending back. So just be careful if you know some of these auxes are in ears, don't blow people's eardrums. And you can actually put a delay. But yeah, you choose your volume, hit that button, and you'll talk back to whatever you've pre-selected. Now it is a little bit long-winded in the sense that if you wanted to do something very quickly on the fly, you have to come in here and say, okay, I only want to talk to, you know, the drummer who's on aux 3. Do that, come back here, and then, you know, set your level and then talk to the drummer. All those steps, by the time, you know, whatever it is you wanted to say to the drummer is, you know, come and gone. It's a bit too late. So it's not, this is one of the drawbacks of using digital over analog. I used to have a Behringer XL 2400. I love that desk. I sold it. I regret, but you know, I was going digital. But it was all right there. I could talk back to any of the aux or monitor channels, anything I wanted to. But yeah, demystifying routing for you, and it's just a general basic overview. It was as always, because everybody uses this mixer for different purposes, and I can't anticipate every single sort of purpose that you want to use it for. So if you have any specific questions, just drop them in the comments, and I'll look at them and come back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, other than that, hope you guys are crushing it. Speak to you soon. Peace.